Avada Kedavra.
Michael Gambon's passing has hurt Harry Potter fans as much as the passing of Albus Dumbledore, the character that's Gambon's most memorable performance. As fans around the world try to cope with news, we thought this legendary man and the character he played deserved a little tribute, which is why we rushed to make this video possible. Gambon assumed the role of the beloved Hogwarts Headmaster in 2003 after Richard Harris, the original Dumbledore, passed away. The casting of Dumbledore's character carried great significance, and esteemed actors such as Ian McKellen and Peter O'Toole were considered but declined a role. Gambon, however, embraced the character with a unique vigor, donning Dumbledore's signature long beard and half-moon spectacles while infusing him with his distinct baritone voice. But this Dumbledore was not Mr. Goody-Goodfella like Richard's version. Gambon's portrayal of Dumbledore introduced a nuanced and occasionally mischievous facet to the character, so who embodied Dumbledore better? Harris with his gentle kindness or Gambon with his enigmatic and intricate interpretation? On-screen, Gambon's rendition seamlessly melded with the evolving Harry Potter narrative and the directorial vision of David Yates. Gambon believed that Dumbledore should exude an aura of intimidation befitting a formidable wizard and headmaster, all while safeguarding Harry Potter. He once shared that, in essence, he portrayed a version of himself infusing the role with a hint of Irish charm juxtaposed with an underlying sense of authority. Michael's portrayal of Albus Dumbledore resonated deeply with the Harry Potter franchise's global fanbase. His contribution to the wizarding world will forever hold a cherished place in the hearts of those who wandered alongside Harry, Hermione, and Ron on their magical journey. In this video, we will explore Dumbledore's origin from his birth to that of Harry Potter and learn about the various facets of the enigma that is Professor Dumbledore. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, a man of many names and personalities. Michael Gambon once said in an interview, "I just stick on a beard and play me, so it's no great feat. Everyone I play is just a variant of my own personality." Much like Mr. Michael's portrayal, Dumbledore's character has many facades and veils which have been uncovered over the 7 books and 8 films, and all of this is even reflected in his very name. Dumbledore's name is not just a set of awesome-sounding words to elevate his swag. Each of these words has a deeper meaning that reflects his character and shades of his personality. To begin with, Albus actually means white, which resembles his long beard as well as his struggle to maintain peace not only in the wizarding world, but also between the wizards and the muggles. According to Rowling herself, the white represents a spiritual theoretician, brilliant, idealized, and somewhat detached. But his middle names and last name shed more light on his complex character. Percival seems to originate from a legendary knight from King Arthur's court who achieved many wonderful feats. Wulfric means the power of the wolf, but it is odd because we think he could not transform into wolf, or could he? However, Wulfric reminds us of Beowulf, the legendary hero from Old English literature who slew a monster named Grendel, which sounds similar to Gellert Grindelwald. Additionally, Beowulf was fatally wounded in a sea cave only to be helped by his squire, the orphaned son of Beowulf's loyal followers. Incidentally, Dumbledore was also saved by Harry in a similar cave, and Harry is also the orphaned son of Dumbledore's loyal followers. Brian is Celtic for noble, and we couldn't agree more. There are a few who are as noble as the professor. Lastly, his last name is actually kind of sweet, as it is an archaic word for bumblebee. But Dumbledore's life was anything but sweet. It was a bed of thorns that the professor had to contend with every day. Tragedy was Dumbledore's first friend. Albus Dumbledore was born in the summer of 1881 in the wizarding village called Bold-on-the-Wold to Kendra and Percival Dumbledore. The family was small and loving, but that did not last long. His early life was marred by tragedy when his younger sister, Ariana, was attacked by Muggle boys who feared her magical abilities. This traumatic event left Ariana mentally scarred, causing her magical abilities to manifest unpredictably, often destructively. In a quest for violent justice and vengeance, Percival Dumbledore, Albus's father, sought out and attacked the Muggle boys responsible for his daughter's suffering. He was subsequently sentenced to Azkaban, but he did not disclose the reason behind his actions because that would have meant that the wizarding community would know about it, and she would have been sent to St. Mungo's Hospital for magical maladies and injury. So, Percival Dumbledore chose to stay silent and died in Azkaban rather than subject his daughter to a grim fate. To escape the judgmental eyes of their community, Kendra Dumbledore relocated her family to Godric's Hollow. Here, Kendra isolated her family from neighbors because she shared her husband's fears. The only one let in on the secret was Bathilda Bagshot. Eventually, a young Albus learned to keep silent about his sister and father in public. Nevertheless, the events had started to break the Dumbledore family already. School years. Albus Dumbledore began his education at Hogwarts in 1892, where he was sorted into Gryffindor. His arrival at the school was overshadowed by the whispers about his father's criminal past, with some students mistakenly assuming Albus shared his father's anti-Muggle sentiments. But Elphias Doge noted by the end of the first year he would never again be known as the son of a Muggle hater, but as nothing more or less than the most brilliant student ever seen at the school. Albus distanced himself from all kinds of prejudice, positive and negative. Prejudice showing an early commitment to fairness and open-mindedness. During his time at Hogwarts, Dumbledore's exceptional magical talents quickly became evident. He would later go on to become one of the greatest wizards of his era, largely through his own efforts. He had access to accomplished teachers who played a role in nurturing his skills. Additionally, Dumbledore forged meaningful connections with influential figures like Nicholas Flamel, Bathilda Bagshot, and Griselda Marchbanks. Dumbledore's compassionate nature shone through when he befriended Elphias Doge. Despite Doge's physical condition due to dragonpox. In fact, Elphias noted this incident in Dumbledore's obituary, saying he died as he lived, working always for the greater good, and to his last hour as willing to stretch out a hand to a small boy with dragonpox, as he was on the day that I met him. While some anti-Muggle prejudice briefly emerged in Dumbledore's life due to his association with Gellert Grindelwald, he eventually realized the error of his ways. The price Albus paid for love. After graduating from Hogwarts in June of 1899, Albus Dumbledore planned to go on the traditional grand tour of the world with his friend Elphias Doge. However, tragedy struck on the eve of their departure when Albus's mother, Kendra Dumbledore, was killed in an uncontrollable magical outburst from Ariana. This sudden loss left Albus, as the head of his fractured family, burdened with the responsibility of caring for his siblings. Returning to Godric's Hollow, Albus harbored bitterness and frustration over her circumstances. He felt trapped and unfulfilled, but remained determined that his younger brother, Aberforth, should complete his education before taking on the care of Ariana. But fate sent Albus a bane and boon in the form of a foreigner named Gellert Grindelwald, who arrived in their village during the summer of 1899 and was introduced to Albus by Grindelwald's great-aunt Bathilda Bagshot. Albus and Grindelwald quickly formed a deep bond, spending days discussing their shared dreams and aspirations. As the summer drew to a close, Albus and Grindelwald solidified their relationship with a blood pact. Their plan was to ignite a global wizarding war and subjugate Muggles with ambitions to lead a revolution. Aberforth, concerned for his sister Ariana, confronted Albus and Grindelwald one night. Tempers flared and threats were exchanged. In a heated confrontation, Aberforth drew his wand, resulting in Gellert subjecting him to the Cruciatus Curse. Albus intervened to protect his brother, leading to a three-way duel between Grindelwald, Albus, and Aberforth. Tragically, during the chaotic duel, Ariana, confused and caught in the crossfire, lost her life. She was the collateral damage that no one wanted, the price Albus paid to see the folly in his actions. Realizing the depths of Grindelwald's cruelty, Albus turned against him. Gellert escaped, leaving behind a family in mourning. Albus and Aberforth, filled with regret and sorrow, rushed to Ariana's lifeless body. A funeral was held for Ariana, during which Aberforth, overwhelmed by anger and grief, lashed out at Albus, breaking his nose. The tragic events of that day served as a nail in the coffin, and although Albus set on a path of redemption and responsibility, the tragic mark of this nail could never be erased. Professor Dumbledore. After this, Albus Dumbledore sought solace and purpose in his life. He traveled to France, where he studied the ancient art of alchemy under the guidance of the renowned Nicholas Flamel. This journey allowed him to both give his brother space and to channel his grief into productive pursuits. Upon his return to Britain, Albus's interests shifted to the study of dragon blood. He made significant contributions to the field, discovering 12 new uses for it. Dumbledore's accomplishments in the field of magical research earned him widespread recognition and led to an offer of a teaching position at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. He had always felt a deep fondness for the school and had a long-standing desire to teach, making his acceptance of the offer a natural choice. Returning to Hogwarts, this time not as a student but as a teacher, Albus Dumbledore assumed the role of defense against the dark arts professor. He carried the burden of knowing about Grindelwald's impending rise to power and felt a responsibility to prepare his students for the dark times ahead. Little did he know that Grindelwald was but a mere rook in the world Guild of Dark Wizards. He was given Classroom 3C on the 3rd floor, where he conducted his lessons, and he was also granted an office. As Professor Dumbledore, he would go on to influence generations of students, leaving an indelible mark on Hogwarts and the wizarding world as a whole. First World Wizarding War. In the early days of the global Wizarding War, led by Gellert Grindelwald, Albus Dumbledore closely monitored the devastating attacks carried out by Grindelwald and his followers across Europe. Rumors circulated that Grindelwald possessed a wand of immense power, believed to be the Elder Wand. Albus, aware of Grindelwald's quest for the Deathly Hallows, understood the significance of this. Later on, Albus learned that Grindelwald had a vision of a powerful Obscurus, one that could potentially pose a threat to him. Despite a pact they had made to avoid direct confrontation, Grindelwald still feared Dumbledore might find a way to overcome it and challenge him. Recognizing his unique capability to end Grindelwald's reign, Dumbledore continued to monitor and anticipate Grindelwald's activities. In December of 1926, Dumbledore's vigilance paid off when he heard about magical disturbances causing havoc in New York. He correctly deduced that a powerful Obscurial was responsible, a potential weapon Grindelwald could seek to wield. To thwart Grindelwald's plans, Dumbledore contacted his former student, Newt Scamander, who had become a magizoologist working to protect magical creatures. Dumbledore informed Newt about a captive Thunderbird in Egypt and trusted him to rescue it. He also knew that Newt's journey would take him through New York, coinciding with both the Obscurial attacks and Grindelwald's efforts to locate and ally with the Obscurial. Newt's involvement led to the discovery of Credence Barebone, the powerful Obscurial, and Grindelwald's capture, as he had been masquerading as Percival Graves. For his role in the New York incident and his reluctance to provide details to the Ministry, Newt was banned from international travel. The Ministry offered to lift the ban if he confessed that Dumbledore had sent him to New York. Despite knowing that Dumbledore had covertly orchestrated his mission, Newt remained loyal to his former teacher and refused to implicate him. Even when rumors surfaced, thanks to Rita Skeeter's biography of Newt called Man or Monster, the truth about Newt Scamander, he continued to deny Dumbledore's involvement in the affair. Dumbledore's Not Everyone's Cup of Tea. As the rumors of Newt's mission reached the British Ministry of Magic, they prompted a delegation of Aurors, including Newt's brother Theseus Scamander and Torquil Travers, to question Dumbledore. Travers demanded that Dumbledore fight Grindelwald, but Albus refused, resulting in his suspension from teaching defense against the dark arts. He warned Theseus not to let Travers send him to Grindelwald's rally. During this encounter, Albus also crossed paths with Leta Lestrange, who accused him of misunderstanding her. They discussed the painful rumors surrounding her brother Corvus Lestrange, whom many believed to be Credence. Dumbledore revealed that he had lost his own sister Ariana years ago, offering some perspective on her grief. Albus later visited the Room of Requirements, where he found the Mirror of Erised, the mirror that showed your deepest desires. He saw a cherished memory of his bond with Grindelwald and witnessed Grindelwald in present, a meeting he both longed for and feared. After the battle in the Lestrange family mausoleum, Dumbledore met Newt at Hogwarts. They mourned Leta's death, and Newt presented Dumbledore with a pendant of the blood pact he had stolen. Dumbledore contemplated destroying it, which would allow him to confront Grindelwald directly. In a cafe meeting between Dumbledore and Grindelwald in London, they discussed their shared past and goals. Albus claimed to have followed Grindelwald out of love, while Grindelwald expressed his disdain for Muggles and his intent to reshape the world. Despite their differing ideologies, they shared a moment over a cup of tea. Amidst the rising tension in their complex history, Dumbledore and Grindelwald's meeting was a crucial juncture and shaped what came next. Dumbledore's Army version 1.0. As the threat posed by Gellert Grindelwald grew, Albus Dumbledore took strategic measures to counter his former lover's disastrous ambition. Recognizing the need for an army of determined wizards, he enlisted the help of Newt Scamander to assemble such a force. At the same time, Dumbledore struggled with the challenge of breaking the blood pact he and Grindelwald had created in their youth. In a meeting with Newt and Theseus Scamander at the Hog's Head Inn, Dumbledore demonstrated the power of the blood pact, revealing that it not only prevented him from attacking Grindelwald, but also from even contemplating it. The blood pact's vial violently reacted to any such thoughts, causing physical harm to Dumbledore. He emphasized the importance of trust in their mission. Dumbledore also explained to the Scamander brothers that Grindelwald had retained a Qilin with the ability to see the future, which made things difficult as they were now required to make careful planning to counteract his visions. Before their departure, Albus gave various items to his allies to confuse Grindelwald, which aimed to level the playing field by by confusing Grindelwald's prophetic abilities. Each item had a specific purpose to ensure the success of their mission. Dumbledore later encountered Credence Barebone in Berlin, which of course did not go well. As Newt assembled his team at Hogwarts, Dumbledore introduced them to the mission's destination, Bhutan. There, a new Supreme Mugwump would be elected during the Killing Walk. Over dinner at the Hog's Head, Dumbledore shared more personal details with Newt and Theseus. He revealed that Credence was Aberforth's son and disclosed the tragic fate of his own sister, Ariana, who had been an Obscurial like Credence. Albus blamed himself for her death and was clearly burdened by guilt. Dumbledore devised an escape plan involving enchanted suitcases and a kill-in ceremony portkey. During the kill-in ceremony, Grindelwald used the creature to assert his authority, becoming the Supreme Mugwump. However, Newt and Credence fought together for the good side. Furthermore, Newt had managed to get a pendant from the blood pact between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. A deflected curse during the duel led to the destruction of the blood pact's pendant, which in turn released Dumbledore from its constraints. Grindelwald, before disapparating, claimed he had never been their enemy. Gellert's final defeat at the hands of Dumbledore. As Gellert Grindelwald continued to sow chaos in Europe, amassing power and wielding the Elder Wand, Albus Dumbledore decided to take action as enough was enough. Despite their history, Dumbledore still had conflicting emotions, including a lingering love for the man he believed Grindelwald could become if given a chance. In 1945, unable to ignore Grindelwald's atrocities any longer, Dumbledore finally sought him out. Their epic duel is now renowned as one of the most legendary battles between wizards. Dumbledore emerged victorious and handed Grindelwald over to the authorities, leading to the Dark Wizard's imprisonment in Normangard's highest cell. After this, Dumbledore claimed the Elder Wand as his own. Dumbledore's actions were celebrated worldwide as he put an end to the global wizarding war and Grindelwald's vision of wizarding supremacy over Muggles. In recognition of his heroism, he received the prestigious Order of Merlin First Class under Leonard Spencer Moon's administration. This was the culmination of Dumbledore's lifelong quest to bring peace and justice to the magical world. But a new and far darker trouble was brewing. Meeting Tom Riddle. Albus Dumbledore took on the role of a special messenger for Hogwarts and was tasked with personally delivering acceptance letters to young witches and wizards from Muggle families. This was so because he was someone who knew how to deal with Muggles and their shock at the discovery of magic. In 1938, one of his most notable recruitments was Tom Riddle, a resident of Wool's Orphanage in London. Dumbledore contacted the orphanage's matron, Mrs. Cole, to arrange a meeting regarding the boy's future. Of course, he was secretive about his true purpose and deceived Mrs. Cole into believing that he was a relative wanting to claim Tom. Mrs. Cole shared details about Tom's troubled background, his unsocial behavior, and the negative influence he exerted on other children. Initially met with suspicion and hostility by Tom, Dumbledore had to assure him that he wasn't a threat. He extended an invitation to Hogwarts and revealed Tom's innate magical abilities, though he was also concerned about the boy's inclination toward cruelty, secrecy, and dominance. During their meeting, Dumbledore learned that Tom was a Parselmoth, able to speak to snakes. This was a common trait among the Dark Wizards, but more than that, Dumbledore was concerned and troubled by Tom's negative characteristics. Dumbledore rebuked Tom for stealing from his fellow orphans and instructed him to return the stolen items and apologize. He warned Tom that such behavior would not be tolerated at Hogwarts, where he was now invited to study. Dumbledore provided Tom with information about Diagon Alley, Platform 9 3/4, and financial assistance to purchase school supplies. Due to his concerns about Tom's conduct, Dumbledore decided to keep a close watch on him during his time at Hogwarts. You see, magic is both a tool and a weapon. The difference is all about the people who wield the magic. Tom on the path of becoming he who must not be named. Albus Dumbledore assumed the role of Professor of Transfiguration during his tenure at Hogwarts. In 1943, the school faced an unusual and unprecedented crisis as a series of petrifications and tragic deaths occurred, and all these were attributed to a mysterious beast believed to have been released from the Chamber of Secrets by the heir of Slytherin. This was the time when Tom started making the Horcruxes by killing people. Dumbledore suspected Tom Riddle's involvement in these attacks but lacked concrete evidence. Riddle, the young dark wizard, skillfully framed Rubeus Hagrid, a Gryffindor student, as the culprit. He managed to pass off Hagrid's tamed Acromantula Aragog as the creature responsible for attacking students. This move led to Hagrid's expulsion from Hogwarts and prevented the school's permanent closure. Despite being unable to prove Riddle's guilt, Dumbledore closely monitored him to prevent any further attempts to open the Chamber of Secrets during his remaining years at Hogwarts. He also persuaded the headmaster to allow Hagrid to stay at the school, albeit as a groundskeeper in training. the greatest headmaster the Hogwarts ever had. By the mid-1960s, a rising tide of dark magical activity hinted at Lord Voldemort's imminent ascent to power. Albus Dumbledore, anticipating his former students' malevolent intentions, had already begun preparations to thwart him. As Death Eaters started recruiting dark creatures and the Ministry of Magic sought assistance in understanding and combating this menace, Dumbledore had established spies among them. Through his network, Dumbledore received reports of a horrifying attack on a young boy named Remus Lupin, who had been cursed with lycanthropy by Fenrir Greyback. Greyback, instead of managing his condition, sought to infect as many individuals as possible, nurturing dreams of amassing an army of werewolves to challenge the wizarding world. Dumbledore sympathized with the Lupin family's plight, which inadvertently played a role in his appointment as the new headmaster of Hogwarts. The Board of Governors believed Dumbledore was the best candidate to succeed Armando Dippet, granting him the authority to accommodate the Lupins when Remus was ready to attend Hogwarts. As headmaster, Dumbledore relocated to the headmaster's tower. During this time, Tom Riddle, now known as Lord Voldemort, approached Dumbledore with a request to return to Hogwarts as a teacher. Dumbledore, aware of Voldemort's dark activities and potential recruitment strategies, denied the request. In response, Voldemort cursed the position of Defense Against the Dark Arts instructor, ensuring that no teacher could hold the position for more than a year. During his time as headmaster at Hogwarts, Albus Dumbledore often sought solace in the clock tower courtyard, finding comfort in the quiet, starry nights and crisp air. It was here that he could gain perspective on his troubles. In his office, Dumbledore developed the habit of pacing, especially during challenging times when the castle's security was threatened. Students would occasionally visit his office for various reasons, including addressing misdemeanors or seeking resolution during conflicts. In anticipation of Remus Lupin's enrollment at Hogwarts, Dumbledore made thorough preparations. He arranged for a house to be built in Hogsmeade, perched on a hill above the village, equipped with spells to ensure Remus's safety during transformations. An underground passage on the school grounds, concealed beneath a whomping willow, provided Remus with a discreet means of access to the building. Dumbledore personally visited the Lupin family on March 10, 1971, to invite Remus to attend Hogwarts. Despite their initial fear, the Lupins came to understand Dumbledore's concern for Remus's well-being. An agreement was reached allowing Remus to attend Hogwarts with special precautions in place. In fact, when Severus Snape discovered Remus's secret, Dumbledore forbade him from revealing it to anyone else. The beginning of the First Wizarding War. In response to Lord Voldemort's initial rise to power in 1970, Albus Dumbledore took a decisive step by establishing and leading the Order of the Phoenix. This proved to be a turning point in the history of Hogwarts and the British wizarding world. This covert society was comprised of individuals willing to risk their lives to combat Voldemort and his Death Eaters. Despite suffering significant losses, the Order played a pivotal role in the war against the Dark Lord. During this turbulent period, Hogwarts continued to educate a generation of witches and wizards. Some students became fiercely loyal to Dumbledore and his cause, while others aligned themselves with Voldemort. Among these students were future Order members Arthur Weasley and Molly Pruitt, as well as future Death Eaters Bellatrix Black and Lucius Malfoy. In the midst of the conflict, Dumbledore encountered Sybil Trelawney, who sought a position as the new divination professor at Hogwarts. Despite his reservations about the subject's importance, Dumbledore granted her the role due to her lineage as the great-great-granddaughter of the renowned seer Cassandra Trelawney. During her interview at the Hog's Head, Dumbledore initially doubted Trelawney's authenticity as a seer. However, her sudden trance-like state led her to make a prophecy about the birth of a child destined to vanquish the Dark Lord. This prophecy revealed that the child would be born to parents who had thrice defied Voldemort and would arrive as the 7th month ended. Dumbledore was deeply astonished by this revelation, but the Death Eater Severus Snape had overheard part of the prophecy. Snape's eavesdropping was cut short when he was caught spying and ejected from the tavern by Aberforth Dumbledore. Recognizing the danger that Trelawney now faced from the Death Eaters, Dumbledore hired her as a Hogwarts professor to provide her with protection. During the Wizarding War, Albus Dumbledore's role simply cannot be understated, even by the most hardcore Slytherins. Just before the tragic deaths of James and Lily Potter, Dumbledore learned that James's invisibility cloak was one of the Deathly Hallows. Although he had abandoned his ambition to unite the Hallows, Dumbledore couldn't resist the opportunity to study the cloak, so he borrowed it from James. Severus Snape, a double agent working for the Order, approached Dumbledore and revealed that Voldemort had targeted Harry Potter based on Trelawney's Trelawney's prophecy. Dumbledore took measures to protect the Potters, advising them to hide under the Fidelius charm in Godric's Hollow. Tragically, their secret keeper, believed to be Sirius Black, but actually Peter Pettigrew betrayed him. Oh, he is so extremely vile and despicable. This led to the deaths of James and Lily. Voldemort's attempt to kill Harry backfired due to Lily's protective sacrifice, destroying Voldemort's physical form. This gave Dumbledore ownership of 2 of the Deathly Hallows. Aware that Voldemort still posed a threat, Dumbledore ensured Harry's safety with the Dursleys, leveraging Harry's blood connection to them. Although Dumbledore initially planned to allow Voldemort to kill Harry, thereby destroying the fragment of Voldemort's soul within him, he also aimed to shape Harry into a person willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, which is something only a man like Dumbledore can do. I'm not saying it is as a bad thing. In fact, it makes Dumbledore someone who would do anything for the greater good, which includes sacrificing himself. Dumbledore hired Severus Snape as the potions master at Hogwarts, defending him against ministry persecution. He attended Death Eater trials, including those of the Lestranges and Barty Crouch Jr., and witnessed Igor Karkaroff's testimony in exchange for his release from Azkaban. With Harry protected and the Order of the Phoenix keeping watch, Dumbledore continued his role as the brilliant and eccentric headmaster of Hogwarts during these tumultuous times. I don't think I need to delve into the events that transpired in the movies. Harry became the chosen one and Dumbledore did raise him as a calf to be slaughtered, but I don't blame him. After Dumbledore was killed by Snape at Dumbledore's request, Snape became the new headmaster of Hogwarts and Dumbledore became etched in the memories of millions, and probably billions of people who read the books or watched the movies. Michael Gambon's tragic death revived all these memories in me, and I found myself in nostalgia, which is what led to the conception of this video. I hope you liked it, and this is a little tribute from Marvelous Videos to a character that became immortal because of the late Mr. Michael Gambon. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, be safe. Thanks everyone.